In 2004,
Google began a pretty cool project. So scanning and digitizing all of the books. So
just the noble ones that aren't seditious or immoral, I hope.
No, all of them. So they reckon there's about 130 million books ever, individual books. So not like
I'm only up to about 40 million in my collection.
I get it. Well, actually, that's where they're up to. They've scanned about 40 million over the 70 years. So they're sort of 30% of the way through. They're going to keep going until they get to the end. They're not done. They're not getting done.
I thought they were good.
Yeah, but as well as this, they've scanned them and digitized them, but this also gives them some ability to understand some other things in this. In particular, via what's called Google Ngram Viewer, you can see how frequently different words turn up in any language. I'm going to go with the English language here.
God, you're racist.
I'm
We're going to do it only. We're going to do it in Xhosa.
It's only the language I've got.
And Russian.
So we know, for example, that aeroplanes, we started getting interested in those in the 1920s, peaked in like 1943, and then we sort of tailed off after that.
We don't care anymore?
No, we still talk about them, but we were super interested in them in 1943. That's when we were most interested in airplanes.
Wars will do that.
It's obvious. Like they were all over the place. It's pretty cool. Rockets. When were we most interested in rockets?
Probably from the late 40s onwards into the 60s especially.
60s, yeah. So we still talk about rockets. We talked about rockets before, but 1960s were the total peak.
The Renaissance.
Dogs and cats.
All the time.
Yeah. We've talked about dogs and cats pretty much consistently all the way through, except for, weirdly, okay, so dogs, we talk about 3 times the amount that we talk about cats.
Well, it stands to reason because, all you say about cats is why?
Yes, but cats, legit, it's cool. But weirdly, over the last sort of 10, 20 years, we talk about them way more. So we doubled how much we talk about both dogs and cats.
Oh, both. So proportionally still the right animal wins.
Yeah, still the right animal wins.
Right, okay.
Dogs more than cats, but they both have this uptick in the last 20 years.
That's weird.
And finally, it can show us that in 1886, yes, 1886, that was the magical year in which we were most fascinated by the perineum.
So happy right now.
Welcome to the Wholesome Show. Science stories for people who sit on their perineum up the back of the classroom.
Fuck yeah, and do it in the same room.
Oh my God.
We're in the same room.
We have been locked down for so long, we've forgotten that people actually exist. But due to new Australian Capital Territory legislation, we can record this physically, I think. We interpreted it correctly. Otherwise, we're all getting arrested.
I triple checked. I'm like, do we have to wear a mask if we're in the same room? We're like,
The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant.
And me, Dr. Roderick Griffin. I really, really can't wait to talk about perineum.
Perenia.
Lamberts.
Oh, there you go.
I can't believe I'm not doing this episode. I'm already confused. We've reversed.
Do
you know, when I first had acupuncture, right?
No, not in the perineum. You can't. No.
So,
no.
I used to get horrifying acne as a teenager.
Okay. So now I get it. Of course, and acne is solved by the perineum.
Go for the date. So acupuncture, it's not like your elbow hurts, stick needles in your elbow. So it could be okay. So I went. My mother was getting acupuncture for something else, and she talked to the acupuncturist. She said, "Okay, listen, he's got really bad acne. The drugs aren't working. I can help with that." And I thought that's cool. So I went along, and I'm lying there as she's doing her stuff, and I'm looking at all the charts on the wall.
Yes.
So it's the charts of people with all these little points. And at one point there's a chart which is basically, looking straight up the clacker.
Indeed.
With a gentleman's lumps lifted and a bunch of acupuncture points, including one between the beanbag and the evacuation area. And I thought, wow, that's pretty funny. Anyway, luckily it's for my face. And then she sticks some needles in my arms and legs and she says, okay, I'll be back in a tick and I'm going to do something really barbaric.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And my eyes went straight to that picture. I thought, I pimples aren't that bad. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Like, how bad could it be? And so she came back, and that was not what she did.
I'm very glad for you. I'm very glad for you because for me, I don't know if it's going to hurt that much.
I think it would fucking kill.
I'm more about the dignity. I'm more about the dignity.
Oh, no, you give up on that.
I'm more about the dignity.
You're over 40. How do you have dignity left?
Like it's the getting all of the other bits out of the way and making sure, and your date is pointing at the,
So I wasn't prepared. I didn't clean up for this.
I didn't.
Anyway, did I ruin your story? Is that what you're going to talk about?
No, this is not about perennial acupuncture. No, this is about that magical year, 1886, when we were most fascinated by the perineum. Perineum? I don't know.
I've heard and used both. I think mixing it up a bit makes you more interesting.
But I'm not going to get to the perineum for a little while. I'm going to start with the Lauf's machine.
The Lauf's machine?
The Lauf's machine.
Yeah.
It's usually said that Baron Karl Friedrich Christian Ludwig Freiherr Drais von Sauerbronn
Oh, yeah, him.
kicked off the first of 3 19th century bike crazes with his invention of the Lauf's machine.
Aha.
Now, while Lauf's machine sounds to me like laughs machine, like this is going to be fun, it's not. It just means...
No, laughing. I know that word.
You could go for a lauf around the park.
It's not walking.
Running.
No wonder I can't remember it.
The Lauf's machine. It means running machine in 1817. It actually had a whole bunch
What
of
does it mean
different
in other years?
It's okay.
That's
He
my whole
invented
joke.
it.
That's my whole joke.
It had a whole bunch of other names.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I think he called it the Lauf's machine, so running machine. But other people called it either the Velocipede,
Yes.
the Dreisine, after him, so that was his close to last name.
How did they choose which name? That's
The hobby horse,
Yeah.
the dandy horse, or the Celeripede.
Celeripede.
Yeah.
I like velocipede. I've always liked that word. I think it's funny.
Yeah, Velocipede is by far the
Yeah.
winner. By far the winner.
It sounds a little bit like a dinosaur.
So it's basically it's a wooden bike without pedals. So 2 wheels, roughly the same size,
Yep.
or probably exactly the same size. Usually had some sort of log in between that you would sit astride over, and then you'd run. You'd sort of run through the forest while the
fucking Germans.
You've got this wheeled log.
Why would you be laughing? This is good.
This is my laugh machine. His first
A
ride.
straight face would be awesome too. Just like
This
is stern.
I think it would be amazing to see someone doing this with serious face.
There's a hardcore science academic that has one of those. You know it.
I think they'd be makeable. It would be
A log and 2 wheels. I reckon even I could do that. I'm feeling confident.
his first ride, 12th of June, 1817, took him from where he lived in Mannheim to Schweitzinger Realhaus. It was a pub. I think it was a pub. He went to the pub about 7 kilometres away on Baden's best road, which is great. I love the idea that he's like...
Baden.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Jesus Christ.
Went to the pub.
Yep. Good man.
Baron Drais got a patent for his invention in 1818, and the craze swept around Europe and the United States during the summer of 1819.
Craze as well.
Craze. This I don't know the numbers for this, but it was the first weird bike boom. I'm going to tell you about 3 of them.
Okay.
A bunch of manufacturers throughout Europe, United States, copied Drace's machine or created their own versions.
This one's cedar, so it's different.
I'm sure. So wooden wheels, bit of a log in between. But because the wheels were really hard, like they were made out of wood, the only people that really rode them were sort of rich young men.
Because they were hard, that's all rich. You
I
had
don't
to be
know.
rich and male.
Yeah, I guess the rich was because you could afford it and you had to be young and sort of dumb enough to go, all right.
And obviously male, because a lady cannot sit astride an anything.
Not for quite some time. Not for quite some time. No. But the roads were really shitty at the time. It's all carriage ruts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they said all of these young guys started riding these velocipedes up on the footpath where it was paved, and they started running into pedestrians all the time.
So it began from day one.
So they got banned. They got banned pretty
bet they
quickly.
did.
Authorities in Germany, Great Britain, United States, Calcutta all banned its use, and that ended the first bike boom of the 19th century.
Any use, not on the pavement, just no.
I don't have the legislation right here in front of me. Let's assume they just said no footpath riding anymore. And
That's okay.
It was too hard to ride on the road.
Right on the ruts.
The second bike boom was kicked off 40 years later with the invention of the first true bicycle by Philip Moritz Fischer. He was also from Bavaria. He was from Schweinfurt, Bavaria.
Schweinfurt.
Now, the weird thing is, he had a Dracaene hobby horse velocipede, you know, one of the logs you run on, the running log.
What we'd today call a large kid's bike.
So balance bikes. So it was basically a balance bike, but and kids learn to ride on them. They're awesome. He had one of those since he was 9 to go to school. So he was a big fan of these things. But then I think when he was like in his 30s, he'd traveled all around Europe, done a lot of things. He moved back to his hometown, and his son died. So he decided to invent a bike with pedals.
Look, grief does strange things to a man.
It really. I read the story and I'm like, what is the connection here? But it definitely, in a couple of places, it said his son died and then he invented a bike with pedals.
Okay, and there's no explanation.
No, it's the 1850s. So maybe
things.
sons did die a fair bit.
It was probably the miasma.
It could well have been. So his bike, it's the first crank powered bike. It's got pedals and a rotary crank, but it's not like our sort of bike. It's the main difference. It's got the pedals on the front wheel. So you got
no chain drive or whatever.
No chain drive. You're pedaling the front wheel. Initially, it had 2 wheels that were the same size, and he called it the Trekkebelfahrrad, which literally means pedal crank bike, which is
really, that sounds like something from Dune.
The
Trekkebelfahrrad.
It does a bit
Farad. Yeah, Farad is a word for bicycle.
His craze really took off when some French guys, the Olivier brothers and Pierre Machaut of Paris, saw the potential of this invention and started mass producing them as velocipedes in 1868. This took off all over Europe and America again. So this was the second bike boom.
The direct drive straight to the front wheel.
So you got pedals, and people are like, "Oh, damn! Finally, we've nailed this thing." And they could go really fast. Like they could start getting some,
but they shouldn't.
some real speed. And the trick was, to go fast, they decided, you just make the front wheel where the pedals are bigger and bigger and bigger. And so gradually, as we know now, the penny farthings, they got wheels that got much bigger. So they started at a couple of 3 feet, and then they go 4 feet, 5 feet. I think, we know that there are some out there that probably approach much bigger sizes. I guess it's the length of your legs is the main limiting factor.
I didn't think of that, but yes.
So your radius, because you can't have your perineum running on the front wheel, would be as far as you can go.
I'm thinking about it. It's a different kind of machine.
It's not great. What's weird though? So we call them penny farthings because they've got. I don't know which is the bigger coin. I guess the penny is.
Penny's huge.
Is the penny huge and the farthing is
Pennies
small?
are huge, yeah.
Really?
It's like Australians, the $1 coin and the $2 coin. Obviously, the $2 one's smaller.
Oh, I did not. It's just weird though that penny. Okay,
yep, pennies are big, but they're made out of shittier metal.
2 coins of different sizes, but they called them ordinaries. I don't know why they called them ordinaries. Like, this is the ordinary bike. And
I suppose they're trying to say this is the standard, man. This is the industry standard.
Yeah, okay. But same as the dandy horse, velocipede, Dracaene, hobby horse, all of those names for that first loggy wheeled bike.
Yeah.
Pedestrians, again, said these are freaking dangerous because not only are you you're going faster now, but you're still riding on the footpaths and you're colossally high.
Yeah.
Like they all talked about. They said the main trick is avoiding flying off the front and hitting your head, and it's really hard to do.
The injuries must have been insane.
Look, catastrophic. Again, this was the province of young rich men. So it was
stupid and had nothing better to do.
They cost a lot of money, and stupid and had nothing better to do. So this was a craze, but again, pedestrians complained a lot about them, and the craze faded pretty quickly.
You're into your bicycles, your dandy horses. Have you ridden a penny farthing?
No, I haven't.
I'm surprised.
I'm
I kind of thought you would have.
I was reading for this episode, and I was like, I wonder how much they are. But I think they're actually shockingly large amounts of money. And I know that you go from a base level entry bike, a couple of $100, up to a decent bike, a couple of $1,000, and then you get bikes where you can spend $20,000. I know that, but I think that there is no entry level penny farthing. I think you're starting.
Well, there is, but it's like entry level is the same as your luxury level.
Yeah, that's it, because there's no difference.
There is up penny farthing.
And the thing to remember, again, they've moved on from wooden wheels, but now they've gone with hard metal. So they're wrought iron. So
did they rubber the tires then?
They might have had a bit of rubber, but
yeah.
Key invention coming forward. Spoiler alert:
wool.
You know they would have done
compressed wool on the wheels.
You know they would have done compressed wool or something on the wheels.
Felt.
Another name for the penny farthing was the bone shaker, because that's how much.
Fuck, it would hurt. Speaking of the perineum, my God, you'd walk away swollen in places you didn't know could swell. Oh, it's horrifying. I assume the seats were extremely uncomfortable. You're going to get to that?
They're wrought iron as well. It's wrought iron all the way up.
But monsieur, we have molded it. We forged it to the shape of your buttocks.
And you know how much this thing is going to weigh. It's just shock. And if you're a pedestrian, you're walking along the streets of civilized London or Paris, and along comes this flying wheel, and they're a long way higher.
Yeah, they really are.
Thundering down the street.
Clattering, screaming with giant swollen balls.
And there's Lord Toffenby's boy just...
my God.
Yeah, they probably did have swollen balls.
I'm seeing a much less sedate version of the South Park episode where they all deliberately give themselves testicular cancer to get cannabis legally, and they bounce around on their ball sacks.
Oh my God.
That's probably just me though.
It is probably just you. Okay, but the real bike boom... what we call real bikes, kicked off in the 1880s. So we're getting a bit closer.
Early.
We're getting closer and closer to perennium date. So this is when we get something that looks a lot like the bikes that we see today. The main things that changed, they invented a chain drive. So instead of having the wheels on the front wheel, you'd have the wheels underneath your seat like they are now, and you'd have a chain that drove to the back wheel.
That's a big deal.
It's huge. Yeah. It's huge. I mean, the first thing that did is it gives you a seating posture that's way easier. But the second thing is it means you can go faster, so you can have gears. You can have the front cog this size and the back cog smaller.
Yeah.
So you can go faster without having a gargantuan wheel up the front. So way easier to ride.
Well, I got to say, the first time I got a bike with a whole bunch of gears, I was very disappointed because I figured like going uphill would be like lying down and, having a snooze.
It'd suck you up the hill?
But it didn't, apparently.
Yeah, well.
My first 10-speed racing bike, I thought this is going to be so easy.
Did have one of those. I remember.
I had one of those. Yeah,
oh, my God. So I had gears that, you change on the front with the clicker or something like that or the adjust. But the ones that had the whole gear shift like you're in a car.
I had that. It was a purple dragster. Like it had a big, long seat. They call it a sissy bar. The big handlebars like a chopper.
Yeah.
And 3-speed, stick shift. It's like a big automatic car. But you had to backpedal to change gears.
Yeah, actually have to backpedal, not just stop pedaling? Or?
No, you'd backpedal and change gears and then keep
wow.
going. I can't remember why, but that's what happened. I also had a disc brake.
Yeah, that's good.
No, they were fucking terrible. They were a really bad idea because the moment it was even remotely moist, you had no brake.
So disc brakes have come a long way since then. They are very good
70s
technology.
pushies, yes.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Look, 70s bikes, not perfect in terms of, what a bike is functionally.
God, they're awesome.
But my God, they've got some cool looking bikes.
I had a Malvern Star, purple dragster.
I still, awesome. This is a bit of a segue, listener, but...
Segways are kind of like bicycles.
Aladdin's caves. Occasionally in life you get to step into an Aladdin's cave and enjoying beer. Rod and I often talk about some of the good beer shops in Canberra. There's some that have every beer in the world, and you look at it and you just go, oh my God, everything. Anyway, there was a bike rider's Aladdin's cave. We were in driving from Queensland to Canberra, went into a small town cafe early in the morning. We had young kids and, they're our kids, but they were younger at the time.
It's good that it was yours. I think.
And we stopped in for breakfast, and the guy had only just opened up, so it was like 7 o'clock, bang on the dot. And he was getting out of his riding shoes before he was about to make the coffee or whatever.
Clip-on joints.
And I remember my son said, "Oh, what are they?" And I said, "Oh, they're riding shoes, so he can ride his bike more efficiently." And he's like, "Oh, you into riding?" You hear that, and you go, "There was not much of an invitation to this." He's like, he is waiting for this every single day.
You're into riding. Done.
Literally. Yeah. And I said, "Yeah, look, I like it. I like riding. It's great fun."
I have a bowl of velocity.
And he's like, "Would you like to see my collection?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Can I say no? Or you'll kill me.
This is shocking. He took me into the back door of the cafe, into this storeroom out the back. And he said, "Oh, this is half my collection," because what he would do is he would ride one bike to work and then one bike home and then one bike to work and one bike home. He just alternate.
Okay.
He had I think there were like 50 bikes in the room.
Fuck me.
Of which probably 20 or 30 had been ridden in the Tour de France. He had like here's this this one won the gold medal in the Mexico Olympics. Oh, and here's this bamboo one that was used in the Hitler Olympics. And you're like, are you serious? Like it was just like jaw-dropping levels of technology that a lot of it the world had moved on in different directions, but it was just amazing to see this Aladdin's cave of
that is cool, but it's also funny. Like, so do you ride at anything like that speed? No, I've just got the bikes that won, man.
Oh no, like as a collector, like you can just like I think he loved riding, like key part of his life, but he was not going to be that rider. No, but just the fascination with the objects.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Something about perineal damage and bicycling.
Anyway, so the big innovations that kicked off the third bike boom were chain drive.
Yep.
And pneumatic rubber tires. So
I can see that.
Like we can soften this a bit. We're not bone
shaking
shaking
anymore. It
doesn't
hurt
anymore.
as much. Okay.
And so they got a new name. Instead of the ordinary,
extraordinary.
No, they called this the safety. This is the safety bike. So
safety's doing a lot of lifting there, isn't it?
Well, no, they were shockingly safer. Like they could
have called them the safer.
Well, we'll come to how safe. How safe is a big part of the question.
Yeah.
John Kemp Starley produced the first well-known chain-driven bike in 1885, and very quickly things took off all over the world. Like this was a craze with which it's hard to compare in the modern world.
Yeah.
Like you know, when a school goes crazy for marbles, or everyone goes crazy for Rubik's Cube, or anything, it was just on another level because it was out there in the street, and everyone just got a bike.
Also, they're life-changing. I mean, it gives children transport.
Yeah, it gave children transport, women transport, gave poor people transport. Basically, it was so quick. They were...
And yo-yos don't do that.
No, they don't. Well, the cool thing that happened is that because, I don't know if it was about patents or anything like that, or you could just copy and see what was there, but hundreds of manufacturers sprouted up in every city around, every big city around the world.
And we're talking, what, late 1800s now?
Late 1800s.
Heading towards 1886.
Yep, that's it. Yep. Heading towards peak perineum. And so it boomed, and you get so many companies sprouting up that there was a price war, and so the prices just plunged. So I don't have the price of an ordinary penny farthing. Let's assume it's many hundreds of dollars, and then it drops down to like $75, and that's still a chunk of money. So it's not.
Back then, fuck yes,
it's still a chunk of money. But it was an amount of money that people could afford. They could sort of go, I'll save for a bit and I'll get this. And so it's
kind of like the Model T Ford kind of revolutionary thing we've
absolutely. Yep. It was democratized. Suddenly it's this weird hobby of rich kids, rich boys, and suddenly everyone is doing it. So
cool.
So there's stories of doctors and priests would give up riding horses to do their rounds. So they'd ride on bikes to people. Policemen and journalists
Excuse me, vicar? That's just such an image from an English country village.
It is, though, isn't it?
A prissy man in a long black dress being priestly on his strange bike. Sorry, what is it? Safety bike.
It's a safety bike.
Safety bike.
Yeah. Policemen, journalists, they took them up rather than walking. Armies around the world experimented with bikes instead of cavalry horses, and
gave up quickly.
No, actually. It's weird. Okay, this is a bit of a sidebar, but
Which one do you want? I want to join the bicycle corps.
this is a bit of a sidebar. But I did have a look at bikes in war here. So straight away, the British, French, Italian, Belgian, Dutch, Russian, American armies all experimented with, and these are
Of course you try, yeah.
with different types of bikes
have a
and different uses of bikes.
Yeah.
The French, I think, were the first in 1886. They developed a folding bike that you could collapse it and sling it across your bike, across your back. So it's like an infantry. So it's like a,
You got your bike, you got your rifle, you got your rat pack.
you charge on in on your bike.
And look, worst case is if you run out of ammunition, you can throw it at the enemy.
Oh, probably. Yeah. Or you can make like a tangle of barbed wire sort of thing. You know, you can't get over the line of bikes. You know,
No one can climb a folded bicycle.
outside the student library. You know, you can never get past all of the bike parking there. So
That's true, yeah. So there are defensive capabilities. That's good.
but they've kept using them. Like there's like mostly they were used. Okay, so not so much now, but mostly they were used in World War One, World War Two for delivering messages.
I was going to say delivery, right? Yeah.
But there's photos of in 1943 or 44 of the SS, like Hitler's shock troops riding into France on a bike, and I'm like,
Cuts the fear away a bit.
it does a little bit,
We shall cycle at you at great velocities.
but it seems friendly.
It's true. Ting, 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 ting. Now we're going to murder the Jews.
So
The bicycle belt does not smooth that out.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't help. It doesn't. Okay.
I'm not suggesting it's a good thing. I'm just giving it some colour.
Okay, there are people that would have argued that the bike would have stopped that impulse, but it didn't. Clearly.
Really? So if your perineum isn't ruptured, you don't want to murder
no,
Jews?
there were people that, as I'll come to in a bit, who thought very hard about the bike being the solution to every single problem in the universe.
Including immoralities.
Including anything.
I'm putting it together now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So people are using them all the time. People are getting exercise. I'll come to that in a bit.
Sure.
But people obviously are going, oh, this is cool. We can race.
Yeah.
And so all sorts of sports racing popped up. Obviously, there's stuff like the Tour de France. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's the notorious 6-day race in New York.
No.
Where Madison Square Garden, they put a velodrome inside it. And they
6 days going around in circles.
6 days. So basically, these cyclists rode around the track until they went insane. Like, it's just so.
That would take me 3 laps, but I get it.
I also, as a spectator, I know that one of Australia's favourite sports is cricket, which goes for 5 days. But the idea, I think this
changes a little bit.
This was not a 6 days, but you go home to sleep. This was
keep going,
and see how long you can go
so
until
it's just
you go
an endurance
insane.
trial. It doesn't matter whether there's a bike or not. It's just like do something repetitive forever.
So there's a bit of a reporting on this. Several of the competitors were seized with a species of dementia. Taylor, one of the competitors, was quite out of his mind for nearly 2 days, refusing to touch food or drink and charging his attendants with attempting to poison him.
Yep.
Hale showed slight symptoms of delusion on Saturday when he dismounted and declared excitedly there was a scheme to run him down.
Yes.
Rice threw himself down by the side of the track, declaring that one half of his head had been carried away. And that he would be killed if he remounted his machine.
Half of his head.
On Saturday afternoon, he addressed the audience, saying they were throwing stones and brickbats at him. Another rider dismounted, turned his wheel about, and started at a lively pace in the opposite direction.
I'm done with this. It's fucking nuts.
I just love the idea of an endurance sport. Let's push this to the end to see how insane we can go.
I don't want to ruin it. Are you getting into the drug abuse?
No, I got nothing on drugs.
Okay, so I learned something when I first started at the centre that we both work at now. There was a master's student talking
We
about
advertised the centre in the start of this podcast, so you can say
Centre for Public Awareness of Science, Australian National University. I was doing a master's on early cycling, and they were fucked up. They took everything and anything to keep themselves alive and going. Arsenic, strychnine, opium, like cocaine, usually in cocktails. Like cycling is the first mega doping sport.
I don't doubt it. That's awesome. I'm
at colossal levels.
Maybe there's a sequel. Listener will come into that one.
It's literally just going to go, and they were drug fucked this way, and they were drug fucked this way, and they were drug fucked that way. Like it was. I was listening to this presentation. It was my first year at the centre, and just going, "Holy shit, this is awesome!"
And this is where you go. Podcast.
Yeah, they didn't exist then, but if they had, the drug abuse. I think cycling was the original doping sport.
I'm sure.
Literally.
Oh, maybe.
Okay, at levels that would compete with modern day. How about that?
Sounds like some sort of podcast has to do a deep dive into that and tell me what the original doping sport is.
Could be anyone.
All right. The sport boomed. Everyone got into it for, daily use, for work, for leisure, for sport. It's just booming. But while that happened, a scientific fight broke out. Two different camps of doctors, mostly doctors, who saw things in two very different ways. Oh. So one group, cycling is a panacea. It's going to fix everything in the universe. And the other group, well, look, they were a little bit weird.
Less so?
A little bit weird.
Less panacea-ish?
Less panacea-ish. Okay, let's go with the positive people first. Okay, so a lot of this episode comes from a great article by James C. Wharton. He's now Professor Emeritus in the Department of Bioethics and Humanities at University of Washington School of Medicine.
Started with bio, I think the Department of Bicycles. I was thinking that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, Department of Bicycles. No, Bioethics and Humanities. No, but he wrote that he is in that department now, but he wrote this article in 1978, which is my life ago. And he's still working. So, James, good, excellent.
Wow, good
so
point.
This was in the Bulletin of the History of Medicine. For a brief period, sanitarians, professionals and amateur were engrossed in promoting cycling as a panacea.
Yep.
So-called sanitarians of the mid-19th century, so before the bike had come around, they'd come to appreciate that, environmental cleanliness, hygiene, was good, and regular exercise was also good. So they were starting to say, okay, we need to do these kinds of things. But the problem was, this was mostly ignored.
It's too hard.
It's too hard, yeah. So the key thing, rich people can ride horses or ride pennyfarthings or row boats.
Different uses.
I don't know. There were some gyms. I don't actually know the history of gyms, but gymnasia.
Oh, that would be those giant clubs. Like the club, a stick with a big lump of weight on the end, and you'd move it in exotic ways.
Oh yeah, possibly. And you have to have a moustache.
You do, and you wear skin-coloured strange clothes.
Yeah.
So suspenders.
So look, I'm sure there's actually an awesome history of the first weird gyms, but mostly, again, they were not for every people.
No,
they were for weird, fairly rich people. So the form of exercise most people could do if they did anything at all was to go for your evening constitutional, which is nice. It's nice, but
it's nice to have a walk in the evening.
I love it.
Pleasant. I agree.
But suddenly, in the 1880s, the safety bike, it's inexpensive, or at least not too expensive, and carefree and available to just about everyone.
Yep.
So suddenly you've got this exercise that old and young people, weak and strong people, women and men can dive into.
Poor and rich. Poorer and rich.
Poorer and rich.
Yeah.
So everyone, it's truly democratized. No one was. There was definitely rich people doing it. There was definitely poor people doing it. In Wharton's words, it drew people out of dark, ill-ventilated bowling alleys and gymnasia into the
bowling alleys.
I don't know why.
A scourge on the late 19th century.
Finally, we've got people out of the bowling alleys.
Where are the kids? In the bowling alley again. Okay.
And with its easy speed, carried them from the congested atmosphere of the city to the pure and open air of the countryside. Okay. So during this period, you got a whole bunch of doctors that are talking up the benefits of the bike, and they're probably not wrong in a whole bunch of ways.
Sure, but to be fair, there was a period where doctors talked up the benefits of cigarettes too. I'm not saying cigarettes and bikes are the same.
No.
Disclaimer.
No.
Yeah.
The rider of a wheel takes exercise in the most even, steady way I know of. Ooh. I like that they really, you need nice, steady exercise.
Yeah.
By the cycles, use the. By the cycles? I think that's bicycles. Use the muscular system is exercised and developed with a uniformity that cannot be achieved by other means. The exercise is well and equally distributed over almost the whole body, and when all muscles are exercised, no muscle is likely to be over-exercised.
So, sort of. I mean, shoulder workout, arms, chest, not so much.
Not so much.
Professional cyclists do not aim to get large upper bodies.
No, and look, you might be hinting at some of the critiques that came up.
Oh, I'll shut up.
Oh, you can guess. That's all right. It's just this late 19th century language I just enjoy. When taken in the proper quantity, this exercise not only strengthens the voluntary muscles, but healthfully stimulates the heart, lungs, and digestive system, and encourage the excretion of accumulated morbid matter.
Make you poo-poo more.
Yeah, I think so.
Your bicycle, your poo-poo more.
I don't know why you call it morbid matter, though.
Poo's pretty morbid.
No.
Not a huge fan.
I mean, did you call it morbid? Like you did?
No, I don't call it morbid, but you don't look at it and go, I feel cheery now. I've seen a shit. Like
my morbid matter.
It does kind of
even in my
imply
brain
you
when I
die.
think, oh, it's time I got to go and do a poo. I don't think I've got to excrete my morbid matter.
I'm going to drop some morbidity. I'm going to think about it that way now, though.
So it would help your nerves. The rider must constantly use the sense of hearing, seeing, and feeling in order to avoid collisions, direct his machine, and keep his equilibrium.
Okay.
And obviously, you get fit. Every rider has felt it. He may not appreciate it now because he is accustomed to it, but let him stop riding, and the result is soon apparent in sluggish memory, or annoying organs, or easily tired limbs.
Or have annoying organs. Okay.
There's also,
It's hard to argue with
as
that.
I'll come to in a bit, there was a big discourse from both doctors, women and men, saying that bikes did amazing things for women. Now, there's a huge discourse about the amazing emancipatory potential of bikes for women.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not going to cover that directly, but it's sort of an undercurrent in a lot of this stuff.
We vaguely spoke about it years ago with Kate Orty.
Indeed.
Like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, she said that the bike is a feminist instrument. And I was thinking about this throughout this. But, you know, they pointed to direct things. They said, look, instead of wearing whalebone corsets, and there were some doctors that were saying we should stop doing that. Like, it was.
Oh, look at those radicals.
Well, no. So there were doctors that were saying that because, you know, they were fighting against fashion, I think they were thinking.
Oh, okay.
And the fashion was whalebone corsets were really, and they were saying you get into more practical clothes that you need for a bike, and that's great. So,
Sure. Yeah.
so they were keen. But then they were also saying it's good exercise, gets them out of the drudgery of home. And then obviously then you get the feminist argument saying, oh, the freedom that you get from a bike is amazing.
Yeah.
So underpinning all of this, you know, the ability to, you know, not walk down the street and just be harassed by people, that you could just ride off.
You can whiz past the harassers.
Indeed. And then not be harassed.
Unless they also have a bike.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't want to ruin it. But
So there's an English doctor at the time. Bicycling for women was one of the greatest boons which had been conferred upon the sex in the present age.
Okay.
Morally, mentally, and physically, it should improve not only the individual, but the race generally. They love talking about race.
The race.
Yeah.
The race of women.
The bicycle has advanced the sanitation of this country 100 years.
Sure, pick a number.
Here, I like this one. The cycloanthropos of the 20th century.
Oh,
The cycloanthropos.
the era.
The bike riding man of the 20th, or human,
Epoch.
of the 20th century will suffer less from his nerves and will be more muscular than the man of the 19th.
Ooh.
So doctors would suggest bikes as a cure for a whole bunch of things.
Okay.
All of the 19th century diseases.
Right. Hysteria, dysentery,
Well, no, I was going to go for the ones with funny names.
limb loss.
Yeah, like it's like starry and
Oh, like the
dyspepsia, the
dropsy.
dropsy.
The dropsy. Yeah, dropsy's a good one.
consumption. They definitely cured consumption.
Ah, okay. You get rid of TB by going for a bit of a ride.
Dyspepsia.
Yep.
Anemia, obesity, curvature of the spine, asthma, varicose veins, heart disease, diabetes. Also, the overriding of the great toe by its minor neighbouring toe.
Oh, gross.
When you've got,
Yeah, that's hideous. I mean, that's wildly disfiguring. Get on your bike.
When you've got a big toe that's just curved a bit over its next toe.
Oh, that was the other way around. The next toe curves over the big toe.
Overriding of the great right toe by its minor neighbouring toe.
Yes. So the big toe it's disgusting. I know 2 people who have that, and you disgust me.
Oh, leave them alone. No, you're all lovely people. I love you.
No,
but
they know who they
supposedly, if you're in the 19th century, you can cure that by riding a bike.
Getting a bike, yeah.
I
love they single that one out. Your toes are a bit weird. First, gross as fuck. Second, get on a bike and you'll fix it.
They didn't say gross as fuck. You said gross as fuck.
Between the lines.
They did not.
Between the
No,
lines.
they didn't. They
You can't see what's between the lines. I'm the one with glasses. I can see.
One of the big things that doctors at the end of the 19th century worried. I think they're saying that there's an epidemic of anxiety. So There's one doctor who's saying Americans are fast becoming a race of nervous dyspeptics.
Wow, nervous burp farters.
They were concerned about it.
I would be too. I'm an American.
Little more than an unenviable mass of unorganized nervousness. I don't tend I don't tend to think of 19th century American men as totally nervous Nellies. Like, it's just not.
I've not met many.
I think of them as cowboys and Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah,
not,
you do.
Not nervous Nellies, but
And dudes with big cigars drilling oil. A Rothschild or a Getty's or whatever, the other fuckers.
So they proposed, again, ride a bike, we'll fix this.
Get on your safety.
So people were then starting to point to stats. They'd say things like, the death rate from consumption amongst women in Massachusetts has been falling steadily for 5 years.
Okay.
And women have been riding bikes for that period.
Got to be that. That's got to be
It's
it.
got to be the bikes.
Yep.
They also said that bikes would cut down on drinking and smoking because it's hard to ride a bike when you're drunk.
Well, it's hard
And
to ride a
second-
bike with a beer in your hand.
Well, it's hard to ride a bike with a cigar in your hand. They said that was even though I'm enraptured by this Italian woman I saw once who was riding. She was dressed like literally up to the nines.
Yeah.
Riding a bike through the city square with an umbrella in one hand, and a cigarette in the other hand,
And riding her bike.
and high heels and everything. It's
How
just,
did you not marry her?
it's just the elegance of it all. It's just like you are so classy at this thing.
Yeah, it's insane.
But this doctor is saying, no, you can't smoke and ride. And apparently, America's consumption of cigars fell by 1 million a day in 1896.
From what, 8 billion to
I don't
slightly
know,
less?
but I don't know how many cigars a day you could possibly smoke
I
in
couldn't do 1 million.
the whole country.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah, who knows? And no doubt their numbers are perfect.
other people said that morphine addicts apparently gave up morphine in favor of going for a ride.
Yeah. Would you prefer heroin
Yes.
or going for a ride? So
Well, apparently they're saying that morphine addicts did give up.
I'll take the opioids, thank you. If you're already into it.
Look, they're also talking about a whole bunch of other benefits. You know, you go out into the country, you hang out with your family more because you ride with, you're more comradely, more cooperative, all of these kinds of nice things.
Okay.
So some people went totally over the top.
I'm not hearing you're going to give us any examples.
It will soon be difficult to mention an ailment whose victims, provided they are not bedridden, may not, in somebody's opinion, derive benefit from the use of the bicycle.
Okay.
So one doctor said, a preparation of steel and rubber, he meant a bike, is far
Sure, you don't drink it.
more beneficent in its health and life-giving properties than all the pills and potions ever invented.
Wow, that's a big call.
Another one said, throw physic, and he meant like medicine, to the dogs, for the bicycle has done more for the good of the human race than all the medicines compounded since the days of Hippocrates. It seems hard,
Okay.
but we feel that doctor's occupation is gone. There was people like that thought that the bike was bringing back like an ancient Greek golden age.
Fucking utopia.
like they-
how long do you live for? Ever? Why? I rode a bike.
You know what's weird? It's actually a really short period in history. Like it was sort of 15 years between like mid 1880s and spoiler alert, this all winds down by like 1903 or something like that.
To be fair, I had an inkling.
Yeah. Well, you know, we like bikes now, but I don't think you could call them a craze like
I
that.
love the idea. So you could do medicine or bikes.
Yeah, they
And
said,
not just this, all medicine ever.
what do you need it for? Look, I'm a huge fan of a bike. I just love the idea of people going all over the top.
Look, I'm a huge fan of medicine.
And as you can guess, when you hear these kinds of strong claims, you can imagine other people going, steady on there, fella.
Hang on, bro.
Steady on.
Yep.
There's some other things going on. And so
Sure.
there's a whole bunch of conservative doctors who probably pushed as far in the other direction. Like it's
If you stare at a bike, you'll die, and so will your relatives.
almost. So you get a whole bunch of other doctors that are doing a whole bunch of wacky stuff in the other direction. So obviously, the first thing that they were paying attention to is the accidents and collisions. Which is obvious.
Yeah, that's clear.
Even the people that rode bikes a lot knew this. So they had stats where something like there was one cycling in like big cities, New York and London. They've got this one cycling accident every day throughout the 1890s.
Seems lower than I would have thought.
But that's only they reckon that's only a fifth of what actually happened. So they're saying, and I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what their bar of a cycling accident, enough to go to hospital or something like that.
I don't think that's the time you want to go to hospital if you don't really have to.
No, you go to a hospital then and you come out with all of those 19th century, you come out with dropsy and
the shoe
and
also
stargazy.
the watch. But then you eat a bike and you're fine.
Probably.
I think that's how it works. You can take a drink if you want, man. I can keep the air full for you. Ready? I'm going to talk while William has a beer. There we go. We did it. You're going again. Okay, I got to keep singing. I really love my bike. Okay. Thank God. That was precious.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right. So they shifted over time from acute injuries to chronic ailments, or what they called the diseases of cycling.
Oh.
Yeah. There was
what you have, sir, is a disease of cycling.
Oh, they put here's the cool thing. They put the word bicycle in the title of a whole bunch of these diseases.
You've got bicycle schizophrenia.
You know they would. I haven't found that one, but you know that there probably would be.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
great.
the Academy of Medicine in France spent a whole lot of time on this. There's a bunch of papers in the Lancet from this time.
Sensational.
The British Medical Journal hold a whole special 10-part report on cycling and all of the diseases.
Oh, that's great.
So what do they worry about? The first thing, of course, was the skeleton. Like you said before, that you know how, cyclists now have huge, professional cyclists, huge quads, but not a lot on the guns.
Not a lot on the guns. They don't need the gun show.
Yeah, that's it. It's not a gun show activity.
Need it. No, it's not for that. Yeah.
So they worried a lot about that. They thought that if you exercise too much in one area, it's going to produce musculoskeletal deformities. So not only change your muscles, but bend your whole skeleton.
To be honest, I'd be more worried about getting really huge shoulders and chest and skinny little legs than the reverse. I feel like the cycling over stuffing downstairs is probably healthier for you than the reverse.
Yeah, probably.
It's just a theory.
I don't know. My kids are always doing these. Would you rather fart every hour or sneeze every minute? And I'm like, I'll definitely take the fart on that one.
Of course you would.
I mean, but it sounds like one of those questions. Would you rather have giant legs and Tyrannosaurus arms?
Yeah.
Or would you rather have intense gun show but
skinny little chicken legs? I think the skinny little chicken legs would be a bigger liability because you wouldn't be able to move around.
Okay. All right. That's very practical.
That's my theory.
Okay. So curvature of the spine, they had already said, this is common amongst gymnasts, fencers, and jockeys. And they thought that cyclists would in turn get kyphosis bicyclisterium.
Yes, they would.
Which would be curvature of the spine. Okay. And they also, I don't think they understood Darwin very well at this time because they worried that a lot of married couples would ride bikes together, get curved spines together, and they would pass that on to their offspring. And they worried that maybe this is the future of the race.
That's how it works. You're bent over. Do you make the sexy times with a bent over person, and you have bent over babies?
Bent over babies, yeah.
So is it this? Did they also think if you're wearing a top hat while you were doing the sexy time that you would pass on the top hat gene, and the baby would be born with a top hat?
Do you know that's worth trying? Like that is worth an experiment to see if the baby comes out with a top hat. Are you
putting a shout out? Anyone prepared to breed with me while I wear a top hat? I think that's William's call, not mine.
They said to bike manufacturers, could we please have a bike where you ride nice and erect? So I think they want to have nice. They didn't like the lean over sort of posture.
Well, that's fair. It seems immoral. I agree.
Well, actually, there's a Dutch bikes. I was watching this great video on Dutch bikes. I'll come to that. No, I won't come to that.
Oh, God, if I had $1 for every time I'd heard about that, though.
Okay. They also worried, based on the skeleton stuff, about when young people should start riding because they have soft bones and delicate skeletals. And there are some people that said kids shouldn't start riding a bike until they're 21. Obviously not kids anymore.
I was going to guess 28, so they're actually a lot more liberal than I am.
I just love, that riding a bike would be a thing that is only for adults.
Yeah, that's gone a bit reverse.
So that's some people, but all definitely agreed you shouldn't ride too far or too fast before you hit 21.
21. But at that time, how old's 21? Middle-aged?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Again, others worried about a new race of youth with bulging calves and thighs topped by scrawny chests and arms. A couple of other diseases. So there was cyclist sore throat.
What?
Which supposedly
you're using the bike wrong.
Yeah, some people for riding your bike, for having your mouth open while you're riding and inhaling through your mouth, bad.
Sure.
Being a mouth breather while riding, basically, and you get cold air and dust and bacteria by rapid breathing. Anyway.
Okay. But that could be any activity that. Yeah. Okay.
But here's one of the diseases that it first triggered me for this story because
Triggered, no less.
well, not quite triggered. Not quite
You're going to be okay. Are you okay?
No, it was the disease of bicycle face. So
Is that the look you got when you went into the Aladdin's cave and saw the bamboo winner of the Hitler Olympics?
No, the bicycle face is the opposite of that because this is by the people that didn't like bikes very much.
Oh, disapproving bicycle face.
Some people talked about it being temporary, and other people talked about it maybe being permanent. That a peculiar, strained, set look produced by the incessant tension of maintaining balance on a two-wheeled machine.
Oh, okay.
So here's the inventor of the bicycle face, Dr. A. Shadwell. Has anybody ever seen persons on bicycles talking and laughing and looking jolly like persons engaged in any other amusement? Never, I swear. All their attention is given up to the road and the machine, with set faces, eyes fixed before them, and expression either anxious, irritable, or at best stony. They pedal away.
So this is if you cross your eyes and the wind changes, it'll stay that way.
Basically, they're saying they're concentrating so hard on the bike, it's going to change your face. And I think this was obviously, as you can guess, there is an anti-feminist line in some of this stuff. There's a lot of worry about your pretty face. You'll get bicycle face if you
Look
you
at
ride your bike
you
too much.
ugly bitch. Never ride a bike again. You'll never get a husband.
Exactly.
Because you strained.
Oh, never get a husband? Oh, we'll come to that in a bit.
Oh, goody.
So after you get bicycle face, then you get bicycle headache at the back of your head. Oh. Because the back of your head is the balancing center of your brain.
Well, everyone knew that.
And
That's obvious.
You're working so hard to balance that you get bicycle headache.
Okay.
You also got bicycle heart, where you cycle too much, it makes your heart weak. And supposedly, people were rejected from military service in France and America for having bicycle heart.
Your problem, right? We want to get you in the army, but you're too fit. We can't work with that. You're going to make the other soldiers look bad.
They had cycled so much, it made their heart weak.
I'd love to know how they tested that back then.
I don't... Tested it.
Have you ridden a bike? Yes, your heart's too weak. Off you pop. Okay.
So the people that are talking about bicycle heart, they're not saying that physical exercise isn't good, but they're saying the difficulty was the refusal of cyclists to observe moderation. Their passion for motion made them deaf to medical warnings, indeed puffed them up with a cavalier disregard for danger. It's,
Well, look, they're not like well-involved bicyclists do get a little obsessed with their sport and their equipment, but that could be said of many, many things.
Indeed. Bicycle fright was this was more a danger. They were saying this can happen to people. It's a danger in which the intense and overwhelming desire to do well in the face of danger temporarily paralyzes the necessary will force and makes such a result impossible. Okay.
What's the result?
I'll slow down with the 19th century words here. Yeah. The untrained bicyclist who wishes to avoid the vehicle approaching from an opposite direction finds himself helplessly steering toward the object instead of away from it. When once attacked by this nervous remedy, basically it's saying you get sort of you're on a bike and you get stage fright, sort of like a bicycle fright. You don't know which way to go, and so you steer towards the obstacle.
Do you know what? That's not actually full of shit. So when you learn how to, I'm going to say snowboard because I never skied, but snowboarding, the classic thing is when you see something like when someone says, "Don't hit the tree." If you stare at the tree and go, "My God, that's the thing I don't want to hit," there is no question you're going to go straight at that tree.
So the remedy and
is don't look at the tree.
Yeah, the remedy for this was always to look away from objects to be avoided.
Yep.
So there you go.
Well, I've benefited from that myself.
No, that's cool. I have. Well, also in this, I have certainly in riding my bike, I have once had a head on with another cyclist where
they deserved it, right?
No, it was weird. We only saw each other late. There was like a truck parked over the bike lane, so we both had to veer around the truck. And
you got quite hurt. That was you would come into work or something on that.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah. No, so we both veered around the truck at basically the same time and had only a second to see each other. Whoa. And then you both go can't go left, but both go north. You both go south. You both go north. You both go south, and then bang, it's too late. And so I can understand that.
But that's not the same. Like that's as opposed to, oh my God, there's a tree up ahead. I don't want to hit it. I've got to really concentrate on that tree. Don't hit it. Ooh.
Yeah. So
These are not the same
What I might be
circumstances.
saying in this is, in the middle of this debate, that the sensible position might be somewhere in the middle.
Look at you.
Might be somewhere.
Look at you. You're so moderate.
But here's what I want to turn to. I want to turn to the thing that people really worried about. The thing that really drove a lot of the conservative doctors a little bit strange
Worried
was
about the place between your love hole and your butthole.
the taint. Yeah.
The gooch.
You see, okay, a lot of people worried about the pressure and the other things of the bike seat on the bit that it hit it. So
Bit that it hit.
they talked about the pommeling of the perineum. In fact,
some people probably pay good money for that.
oh, no doubt they do.
Premium panel, that's $45 a minute.
But no kissing.
No, that'll make it weird. It's slightly awkward. Oh God.
In fact, I love this. Albert Gihon, in this period, he was the medical director of the U.S. Navy. So it's not a small role. He said that because of bikes, I can give no more significant hint to the young man choosing his field of study in medicine than to make the perineum and its adjacencies the subject of his special study.
I'm a perenniologist.
Like I advise all of you, become perenniologists.
What do you do? I study
future.
I'm a gooch specialist.
I didn't know. Like, there are organs right next door that actually need proper specialists. Like, I don't doubt that. But the bit between is just the bit between.
Yeah. What's your area? Well, I can point to it.
It's not that, and it's not that, but there.
Yeah, you know these two things that you worry about and are a bit shy about? Have you thought about the fence in the middle?
It's got a bit of both. It's the worst of both worlds.
Well, or the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, specialise in the perineum.
Okay. It was conceived that the standard bicycle saddle, adapting itself through use to the curve of the perineum, must press steadily against the nerves of the pubic region. And as you can guess, there's a lot of ways that people think about this.
Don't talk too quickly through this. Come on.
So, people talked about this in a variety of different ways. So one of them was cyclists neurosis. This led to tenderness around the perineum and the testicles, pain about the anus, constipation and the retention of urine. So one doctor who had this himself, he described it, who suffered the neurosis, reported difficulty in getting rid of the last few drops of urine, so that an uncomfortable trickle down the leg marked the condition.
Isn't that just... That's just urinating, isn't it? That's how it works, right?
Yeah, okay. He also experienced shriveling and aching of the penis due to the nerve pressure.
Again, that's just urinating, isn't it? Well, sure.
Apparently, at least one person suicided because of this and told his wife that he blamed the bike.
Okay, but look, there are many reasons that people may do such things. And at least one person is not a huge sample.
No, it's not. But people did talk about the pressure on the nerves, potentially, but the nerves in the perineum potentially leading to a whole bunch of...
the emotion bits of your brain?
The emotion bits of your brain.
Yeah.
In both non-sexual ways. They talked about this leading to depression, but also the sexual ways. So...
My fact hurts. I can't make the bones.
Okay, you know that some people said all the pressure, the pommeling of the perineum, the constant vibrations would cause priapism. Ooh. So constant erection.
Look, that's a real thing. I've heard.
Yeah, sure, it is.
No, really, I get in a bike, boom.
You do?
That's just how I roll.
People said, look, the vibrations and the pommeling were definitely an aphrodisiac. The bicycle saddle, by rubbing and bouncing the perineum, must call attention to the organs of generation and so lead to a great increase in masturbation in the timid, to early sexual indulgence in the more venturous, and ultimately impotence in both.
To be fair, much like the cigars and or booze on a bike, it's also very hard to entertain oneself whilst riding a bike.
Oh, well.
I'm told.
Well, the debate comes in a second. I'll get to that one. So this one is still talking about this is still talking about masturbation after the bike. So you get pommeled in the perineum.
I've had a good ride, better have a wank.
And better have a wank.
Okay.
But there are actually, you know how I talked about the positive people before? There were actually some people who did prescribe riding as a way to cure impotence. So they were saying...
Okay, well, that makes sense.
So obviously we're seeing the pommeling of the perineum. So you, sir, go for a ride and see if it gets a rise.
This man has too many stiffies, you have none.
Yeah. So
okay.
there was... But back to the... people worried a lot about that it would lead to masturbation. This is a doctor from Denver.
Because that's what it takes.
I know. But you know, this is
I'd never thought of that before.
This is
but
so
now.
19th century. They're just like, you know what? All roads lead to masturbation.
Young gentlemen will touch themselves.
Not just the young gentlemen.
No, women didn't masturbate then. Women didn't even have the sex.
Oh, no. They definitely acknowledge that.
I'm scandalised.
It is well known that certain debased individuals resort to the stimulation of any of the parts, resulting in due time to complete lack of response to any stimulus, however intense. What he's saying here...
I can only get off if there's a bike involved?
No, what he's saying is that the bike will dull your nerves so that you can't get off anymore. You have to get ever more intense.
That's what I'm saying. So, I want to have a baby with you, but the only way to do that is we're going to have to do it on a bike while it's moving. Yeah. We're going to have to be bone shaking as we, otherwise, no kid for you, champ.
Yeah. At this time,
that's awesome.
A bunch of manufacturers started a little bit worrying about this, so they started producing hygienic or anatomical saddles to help with some of the pommeling of the perineum.
As in to remove it or to make it better?
Yeah. No, they they were worried about the press here. They were like, let's remove the pommeling.
Are we back to my compressed wool theory? Because come on.
It probably is.
Yeah.
There were actually, there's also a pad called the Comfy that ladies could wear in their bloomers. That would reduce their perineum pommeling.
No,
but yes,
Dolores, I'm fine. I have a Comfy in my bloomers.
So all of what I've just been talking about, or that section on priapism, obviously, is related to the men. But obviously, doctors worried about the female perineum.
Of course they did.
And here's a direct quote. The female perineum was being recognized as the most vulnerable prey of all for the insatiable wheel.
Mm.
The injuries incurred by careless male riders might be regarded as largely their private affair. But it is another matter when the welfare of that sex is concerned upon which depends the welfare of the race.
Breeding.
Okay.
Yep.
The ladies riding bikes would be pommeling their perineum into the detriment of the race.
The extinction of the human.
Yes.
These things will wipe us out. Why? Because women use them.
So some people,
right.
So at the time, there was a huge discourse where sewing machines shouldn't be used by women because it did something weird to their pelvic organs.
Let's not forget the up and downy movement. That's very immoral.
That was it. But anyway, so the thing that really started to occupy doctors is, first of all, they thought that the saddle would ruin the birthing canal. So they're talking directly like that.
Okay.
But the next thing they started doing is not only masturbation after the bike, but masturbation literally on the bike.
Sure.
And it's shocking how much discourse there was of doctors being worried about ladies
getting off.
Yeah.
In public too, no doubt.
No. Self-gratification might be readily and inconspicuously achieved by tilting the saddle pommel up and the pudendum down. So...
do you have a picture of that?
I don't. Well, maybe that one. Maybe that one. I actually like her riding style, and her riding outfit is actually awesome.
And black and white, therefore artistic.
Yeah, of course, black and white.
Yeah.
Very Instagram. Very Instagram. There's a Canadian journal that claimed the consensus of opinion is increasing overwhelmingly day by day that bicycle riding produces in the female a distinct orgasm.
A distinct orgasm? My bicyclasm.
I wonder how many women that editor of the journal, let's go out on a limb here and guess it was a guy, how many women he asked.
I spoke to my wife.
Oh.
She's had an orgasm.
On a bike? Well, all right.
How fucking awesome if that's true. Like, I mean, I've ridden a bike now and then. It's never done that for me.
No, not me.
You have a few bikes.
I do. And again, has not.
Know ladies. I know ladies. None of them have said to me, you know what, when I ride a bike, whoop.
I have not had a case of priapism after either. One
No.
doctor, he quoted one of his patients. So he talked to his patients about it. And one woman who claimed a rather varied experience in sexual pleasures actually admitted that she could not ask a more satisfactory development than could be obtained from the saddle of her bike. So he's saying I actually spoke to someone.
I spoke to a woman who got off on bike seats.
Maybe.
Consequently, bikes are evil for ladies.
Look, most of the other doctors were like, "You're freaking idiots, you guys. Like, what are you talking?"
Good doctors.
As they said, if a girl wanted to masturbate, she would carry out her wish anyway, as well sitting on a chair as on a bicycle. Others said, look, probably better on a chair or better in other place than on a bike.
It's true. And it's also, obviously, the idea that a woman is sexual at all is horrifying.
Oh, to these people. Well, so I think there was amongst these doctors some recognition that you wouldn't talk about it in public, but they're not dumb.
We suspect they do these things.
I think so.
Yeah.
So there's this gynecologist, Robert Dickinson. He did a survey.
Really? Dickinson. Okay, carry on.
He did a survey of all his patients. All but one of the wheel women patients, bike riding patients, he spoke to testified against sexual excitation. So he's saying that one
No,
did,
it doesn't get me off.
though one of them admits that she was formerly in the habit of relieving herself manually, which is not connected with the study, but he just added that in.
Yeah, she didn't say the bike got her off, but she does enjoy a wank.
Yeah, that's.
Consequently,
I think
nothing.
I think they're just reporting this. Now,
Sure,
obviously,
just the facts.
obviously, misogyny everywhere here. Bicycle face, women are masturbating
We
on
fixed
bikes.
that
Like
now.
it's just. But here's what you get. You can see it all through the words of all bunch of people. But we'll go back to the bicycle face guy.
Yeah.
So his name was Shadwell, the guy that invented bicycle face. And this is something he said. Not only had the wheel displaced the horse, but in women, in measure, it has replaced the uterus.
What?
Yeah.
I was going to say the man. That analogy I would get, like, okay, you don't need dudes anymore.
Women have become wedded to the bicycle.
And they don't need a uterus?
As a result, they have little desire for matrimony. A quasi-third sex is formed. Womanhood in its physiological and motherly sense is sacrificed to narrow hips, atrophied breasts with retracted nipples.
So what he means is they don't want to have kids anymore.
I think so. Look, I think what they're pushing back is they're trying to say they're trying to say that they are married to the bike, but what it is actually is that there are a whole bunch of women at the time that are saying, actually, this gives us so much more freedom and we are stepping out of the bounds of what you're asking for. And the doctors are pushing back.
And can I just clarify the last point, was the nipples reverse?
Yeah, you missed that.
So your nipples don't go out anymore. If you ride a bike too much, ladies, your nipples go inward. You have little holes instead of little...
This is what they were worried about at the time.
points.
This is what they were worried about.
Well, these were men of science. In their defense.
You know what? That should be our slogan. Well, these were men of science.
No. The nipples, they go in. Why? Bicycles?
Bicycles.
Is that the perineum? Yep. Honestly, didn't anyone who hears it go, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, no, because they're men of science.
Well, that's true. They were men,
they're men
yeah,
of science.
But what the fuck are you talking about? Have you climaxed so hard your nipples went backwards?
On a bike.
And if
on a
so,
bike. On a bike.
Congratulations. That must have been like toe curling, eye rolling. That's amazing.
Eventually the craze ended. Like, as I said before, early 20th century. Basically, motorbikes were invented, cars were invented, and people just started moving away from bikes.
God, I love motorbikes.
But I love this. The clear final word on bicycle face was published in, this is by Chicago doctor Sarah Hackett Stevenson, who was a very...
a lady doctor?
Yeah, a very early famous lady doctor at the time. Yeah. But she published this in the Phrenological Journal.
Of course she
So
did.
the Phrenological Journal...
Bumps on the Noggin Journal.
The Bumps on the Noggin Journal gave the final word on bicycle.
I'm just going to do a little massage
face.
here. You're probably a criminal. I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith.
I just love
Your
this.
son's
I was
a
reading
monster.
through this, and it's like the final word on this dumb debate in the end of the 19th century came in Phrenological Journal.
Fucking great.
Cycling is not injurious to any part of the anatomy as it improves the general health. I have been conscientiously recommending bicycling for the last 5 years. The painful, anxious facial expression is seen only among beginners and is due to the uncertainty of amateurs. As soon as a rider becomes proficient, can gauge her muscular strength, and acquires perfect confidence in her ability to balance herself and in her power of locomotion, this look passes away. There you go. Don't have to worry about bicycle face.
Phrenology.
I love that the Journal of Phrenology
What's
published one thing that was good ever.
But you can see them going, okay, hang on, what? So we got a lady doctor talking about lady stuff that we're hysterical about. Okay, phrenology will take it.
And maybe that's it. She's gone to the lowest tier journal.
Well, even ignoring whether you believe in it or not, and obviously I do, but it's not related.
No, it's not.
I'm no anatomist, but the
Bicycle
head and the
face,
factor
bicycle
along.
face.
Okay, the face is under the noggin.
Facial Studies Monthly wouldn't publish her. Maybe they were all in the pro bicycle face camp.
They just didn't. They didn't do ladies.
Maybe not.
That's
I just love that straight away all these guys look like obviously they're masturbating.
Look at them. They seem happy or distracted.
Mm.
That's climaxing without a man.
They're not paying attention to us.
Yep, climaxing without a man. I will not have it. It's making them sick.
So there you go. Look, I think actually the truth was probably ignore a lot of the insane stuff on the Conservatives. They probably had some stuff that wasn't the worst. But
oh, look, if you're a lady who enjoys getting off on a bicycle, hit us up on Twitter. Let us know.
Stop saying that. Stop saying that.
Why? I mean, they can let us know because it's science. Will doesn't agree. He doesn't think it's science. Well, they were men of science. Our new motto. Did I get that right?
They were men of science.
After all.
They were men of science. The Wholesome Show is me, Will Grant, him, Rod Lamberts.
Dude in the garbage bag.
They were men of science.